You can support this podcast at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
This week's Law & Order Marathon winner is Susan Sanders of Colorado Springs, Colorado. Susan will receive a marathon decal showing she watched 26.2 hours of her favorite crime show. To be next week's winner, sign up at lawandorderpodcast.com.
I'm Kevin Flynn with Rebecca Lavoie and Lonnie Diane Rich, and these are their stories.
You think you know who did it, but you don't know who did it. Law and order, law and order, law and order. It's no ordinary police procedural, baby. It's the FNOG of police procedurals, baby. Law and order, law and order, law and order, law and order. These are their stories, these are their stories.
Welcome to These Are Their Stories, the podcast about network TV's most enduring crime franchise and the real-life cases that inspired their shows. I'm Kevin Flynn. Each podcast will break down an episode from either Criminal Intent, SVU, and Original Recipe. Today we're looking at SVU Season 10, Episode 9, Mea Culpa.
It was 12 years ago. I was drunk. Look, but I know in my bones, in my heart, and in my soul, I didn't rape this woman.
Joining me to do just that is true crime author and host of Crime Writers On and Slate's Mom and Dad Are Fighting podcasts, Rebecca Lavoie. Hello, Rebecca.
Hello, Kevin. I just have to tell you, I'm very disappointed that you did not bring me a ginger ale for this taping, because that would be proof of our love.
You're going to get some in the dish. Rounding out our panel is our special guest from Chipperish Media, our first three-time guest, who also has hit for the Law and Order cycle.
Really?
Criminal Intent, SVU, and Original Recipe, Lonnie Diane Rich. Hello, Lonnie.
Did she get something for that? Like some sort of present?
Yeah, her next SVU is free.
Okay, I like it. Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for having me. I did notice, however, that like the first episode that I did with you guys, we got in a fight with Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yes.
The second one I did for you guys was like the most racist episode ever. And then this one, you got me for the absolute worst Me Too story I think that has ever happened. So
Sorry.
I'm feeling real good about it. No, I like that I end up with this.
We are not treating our friends well when you put it like that. Man. Lonnie, I'm happy to report, though, that Vincent D'Onofrio has forgiven you on Twitter and told his followers to lay off.
Yes, he did. It was very sweet. He and I are BFFs now.
Oh,
That's great.
Can you do something for me too, for him, please? Because I think he still hates me.
It was your fault. Lonnie got blamed.
I threw poor Rebecca under the bus finally. I took the heat as long as I could, and then finally I was like, look, Rebecca said it. I didn't say it. But they all yelled at me again because I talked about him in a different show for talking about daredevils.
Oh, God.
Next up, our review of Men in Black, in which he plays Edgar. It's a giant bug in a man suit.
Jesus Christ. I know, right? Oh, Jesus Christ, PJ, it's me. You have a Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast called Still Pretty.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you would not think that there is a connection between Buffy and Special Victims Unit, but there is a lot of crossover in fan fiction.
Really?
Oh,
Yes.
really?
Shut the front door.
Did either of you know that?
I did not, but I'm fascinated.
Okay, let me give you some of the highlights.
Okay. All right.
There is one where Faith and Benson have a torrid love affair.
Oh, I love that.
Are you okay? Look like you're gonna pee.
That's good.
All right.
That's really good.
There's one where the Scoobies and SVU track down the same serial killer in Manhattan.
Okay.
Wow.
And one in which it is revealed that Buffy's father is not Hank Summers, but John Munch. Now let's look at the first half of this episode, SVU Season 20, Episode 9, Mea Culpa. Just a reminder, we're going to be talking about fictional detectives investigating fictional sex crimes against fictional victims. But if you still find that especially heinous, maybe you should try one of our other episodes. Now, while buying a hot dog, superstar prosecutor Peter Stone is recognized by a beautiful woman who remembers him from his professional baseball days. They go out for drinks, where he's spotted by another woman who accuses him of raping her back in the day.
A few of us decided to go back to my hotel room. Things got a little crazy. I remember she and I were going at it pretty hot and heavy, and then I woke up in my bed alone. Everyone was gone.
You're telling me that you were drinking? You're acting crazy, all right? Are you sure this is all that happened? You're not lying to me. Don't lie to me,
No, I'm
man.
not.
Tell me the truth.
I am telling you the truth. I'm not lying to you. And I might not remember everything, but I know I didn't rape anyone.
Stone and Finn find an ex-ball player who'd been at that wild party. He likes those hot girls so much that he married one of them. That's how they find their way to Sarah Kent. She has a husband and a daughter now and doesn't want to think about what happened 12 years ago. Meantime, Amanda's douchey doctor boyfriend asks her to move in. Carisi isn't buying it because he don't know how to take care of you right. After a particularly rough rape trial, Stone goes to Benson to tell her about the accusation and asks her to investigate it. He knows he's innocent because he knows in his bones, in his soul, he would never rape anybody. Benson brings in Sarah and her upset husband, Gary. Sarah remembers kissing Stone that night, blacking out, and waking up naked next to him in the morning. Olivia and Finn go to Stone's office to arrest their district attorney, who somehow has the audacity to be upset they're arresting him for the case he asked him to investigate. Okay, so here's what we need to know.
Okay.
It's clear that once a girl on the street recognizes Stone, he's going to drop everything to go fuck her.
You pitched for the Cubs.
I did.
I grew up in Chicago. My dad took me to every game.
It's a lot of baseball games. Thank you.
I can't believe it. I have to call my dad. Any chance I could buy you a drink?
Yeah. Here you go, Dad. Thanks.
Yeah, like 2 seconds before, Carisi asked him out on a date, and he was like, no, man.
I'm trying to slow down.
I can't have one beer. And next thing you know, he's swilling back martinis with a complete stranger because she claims she has daddy issues, and he like totally wants to get into that. It's disgusting.
Yeah, Lonnie, nothing gets a man hornier than hearing, I remember you from when I was a little girl.
No, it's a little weird. And also we have like so many of these things that are overlapping because we've got the he said, she said rape case, which of course goes to trial because we believe women. Like that's what everybody does, right?
Even though, by the way, the police are still investigating it, we're also at the trial at the same time. A little bit weird.
Why not? Look, you got to move these things through the system. Sometimes you got to do that little multitasking going on there.
It's the Christmas season. It's our busy time. We got to get these things out. Yeah,
exactly. Let's just process those chocolates, Lucy and Ethel. Let's just move them on through. But the whole thing, so we've got like this coincidence of that situation, right, going on. And then he meets a baseball groupie who remembers him, and then is at a bar with this girl. And then another woman who he raped, all these years ago, whatever, just happens to bump into him out there, who was also a groupie. So we have all of these like it's the harmonic convergence of SVU world. And it is also insane with all of the coincidence. I can feel that coincidence machine just revving up in the background, like working overtime. It's kind of insane.
One little detail is he's at the hot dog cart.
Yes.
And she says, you want to go for a drink? And he hands the hot dog back to the guy.
I know.
He's like, what the fuck am I going to do with this? Eat it? I work at a hot dog cart all day. I don't want your thing covered with everything.
He's about to smash, all right? You don't want Nathan's in there when you're about to get busy. That's not good.
It's like, I'm giving you my hot dog so I can give her my sausage.
Right.
Is that how it goes?
I mean, let's just be real. All of the behavior we see from him in this episode prior to him saying he knows he would never do anything disgusting, like none of the behavior we see actually proves he would never do anything disgusting.
Right.
Waking up blackout drunk on Finn's couch.
How drunk do you have to be to wake up on Finn's couch?
Okay, so he's obviously never seen Finn's apartment before because he says, nice place. So how the fuck did he know where it was, and how did he end up there? It's a very, very big plot hole.
It's a tough Uber to get.
Exactly.
You gotta punch that one in.
Well, I guess Uber just drops everybody off at Finn's place. So like the Uber guy, I guess, knows. But I mean, Peter Stone clearly has a drinking problem and has for quite some time and is obviously still engaging in that behavior now. So this idea that he's like, I black out on the regular, but I know I didn't do that.
In my bones.
In my bones.
Okay.
My bones would be cranky the next day if I was a sexual offender.
My bones would definitely tell me something.
Now, of course, Stone does what every guy would do when confronted by a rape accusation, goes to his cop friends and say, check this out.
Well, first he goes to one and says, do your own secret investigation without telling your boss. And then he goes to the other one, who's the boss, and says, now do your investigation and I'm telling you. Like, what was the whole point of the earlier secret investigation? It didn't play into it at all. I thought maybe Finn would get in trouble with Liv. Nothing happened as a result of that. Like, why have that whole layer? It's like they just needed to fill an extra 3 minutes.
I don't know, Lonnie. As the script editor, what would you
Oh my God, I would be
doctor,
drinking
yeah.
like Peter Stone if somebody gave me this script. This is such a mess. The narrative lines are all over the place. And then, of course, there's this whole thing where he's like, I want you to investigate, right? A truly innocent person would say, yeah, go ahead and investigate because I know I'm innocent. But somebody who is in this situation, who is a DA, who does all this stuff, whose friends are the cops, like, he's not going to ask for an investigation. He doesn't honestly want people to find out the answer.
So this investigation, first off, takes Finn to Sarah's home in Bushwick.
Right.
And she's trying to play it cool. And there's a knock at the door.
Oh, my God.
I'm Detective Tutuola, NYPD. Do you know a Peter Stone?
Sarah, who is it?
Jehovah's Witness.
Honey, who's there? And she's like, just Jehovah's Witnesses. Which, by the way, the Jehovah's Witnesses, if they were real, would have heard her say.
Yeah.
So that is a stupid, bitchy thing to say right in front of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
You think he went back to the table? He's like, weren't you rude to those Jehovah's Witnesses?
Well, no, because after she said, it's just Jehovah's Witnesses, she then stops to talk for a while.
Yeah.
Like being both rude and polite at the same time.
And Gary's like, you were out there a while. Were you saved?
I'm really sorry I kept calling you just Jehovah's Witnesses, guys.
But what was the other thing she was supposed to say?
But I hear you're
Nobody
available.
Nobody important. The Jehovah's Witnesses would still be like, what the hell? I'm still here.
Listen, I know you guys don't celebrate Easter. Can you come clean up after the brunch we're having that day?
We have hey, it's that girl.
Hey, it's that girl.
So who is playing Sarah Kent, the victim here? Anyone spot her?
I must have passed out because I woke up and I was naked, and I knew that I had had sex and Peter was on the bed, and I didn't say yes.
Oh, I don't know.
Me neither.
That's Alexandria Breckenridge. She played Sophie, Kevin's ex-wife, on This Is Us.
Oh, I don't watch This Is Us.
Oh, I did. I recognized her. I watched This Is Us, and I did kind of recognize her, but I didn't make the connection.
Yeah, that's why it's hey, it's that girl.
Hey, it's that girl. I got a hey, it's that guy, though. Did you guys
I
notice
do too.
that?
Yeah.
A good
Well,
one.
Let me play the music.
Hey, it's that guy.
All right, let's see here. I think I know who you guys want to talk about.
Yes.
Reggie, the ex-ball player.
Yes.
Who is that?
Austin Peck, who played Austin Reed on Days of Our Lives.
That's right.
Oh, look who they cat dragged in! Oh, man! Reggie, long time. How are you? Too long!
He was one of those actors who
Yes.
had to be given the same character name
Yes.
as his real name.
Because he would forget.
I like to think so, only because, and now keep in mind, I actually know the actress, Allie Sweeney, who plays Sammy Brady, who acted with him forever. So if you're listening to this, Allie, I'm sorry that I'm going to about to talk smack about your friend, but the name Austin as a dude's name is pretty unusual.
Yeah, baby.
So I always thought it must be that the character was supposed to be like Tommy Reed. And then this dude, Austin, auditioned. They're like, he's got a great body. Let's hire him. And just to be safe, let's change the character's name to Austin, which, by the way, they did with Tony Danza on Who's the Boss.
They made him
Right.
They made him Tony so he would respond when people called him Tony.
You know what? There are dog actors that manage to respond to the name of the character dog. And yet, I mean, I kind of got that sense that, like, you know, Austin Reed, Austin Peck, that there was something, you know, there was a reason why he had the same name. But it's one of these things. And as soon as I saw him, you know, and he has that, like, and I'm sorry, Allie, if you're listening, I'm a huge fan of yours. I have loved you forever. I
love how we're
Sammy
just assuming
Brady.
Austin himself isn't listening.
I hope to God not, because
Let's just pretend that he doesn't know how to download podcasts and
I
just
don't
say
know.
what we're going to say.
But I mean, he just, and I'm so sorry to say this because it's so mean, but you know, but I haven't had an internet feud in a while with a celebrity, so this will be fun. It's just, he just has that kind of like dumb, happy dog look. Like he's
derpy.
so pretty.
Yeah.
He is a little derpy, you know, and as soon as he starts smiling, and then, you know, like he's just so clearly the guy, you know, who did the thing.
Totally. Because he stands out. He totally stands out. And keep in mind, his character for many, many years in Days of Our Lives just kept getting duped over and over and over again by Sammy, evil Sammy Brady.
Oh my God. Can I reel this back to Law and Order?
You cannot.
No, I cannot.
You cannot.
Okay.
So
this is the first episode of me and Rebecca doing our Days of Our Lives podcast.
Sands to the horror glass.
Yes. Where we get really drunk and we talk about 1980s episodes of Days of Our Lives.
Another Hey, It's That Guy. Can you name the actor who plays Rollins' baby daddy, Dr. Al Pollack?
Oh, yeah. That's George Newbern of Father of the Bride fame.
who I like to call Discount Paul Rudd.
Amanda Rollins, will you? Go ahead.
It's a key.
Will you move in with me?
So George Newbern also played Charlie on Scandal, for those who followed that one, you gladiators. Also, this is interesting, for the past 20 years, he has been the voice of Superman in the Justice League cartoon series.
Well, good for him.
Yeah.
He strikes you more as Clark Kent, not Superman?
He strikes me more as Discount Paul Rudd. Let's be real.
Oh, okay.
He's the guy, honestly, every time I would see him when my stepdaughter would be watching Scandal, I'd be like, is that Andrew McCarthy or D.B. Sweeney? It doesn't look so great. Like, who is that? Some guy. I know it's not Paul Rudd, but he's pasty like Paul Rudd. Who's that guy?
Did D.B. Sweeney let himself go?
He's a classic. Hey, it's that guy.
I've got one more. Does anyone recognize Officer Eddie Montero, the know-it-all cop?
Lieutenant, some guy's got ADA stone in there. The customer said he was yelling about somebody raping his wife.
I do. Only because I don't think this is his first time being in one of these shows, right?
No, this is like his fourth or fifth appearance.
I think I don't know his first name, but I know his last name very conspicuously is Hargitay.
This is actor Eddie Hargitay.
His name is Eddie in real life, too?
Yeah, so he'll respond to his name. He's Mariska's cousin.
I remember seeing him in the credits in other episodes and being like, nepotism.
Well, she got her husband the job, so
Yes.
she may as well, yeah.
Yes.
Get her cousin the job.
Fun for the whole family with SVU.
I want to get your impressions of these scenes where the squad is talking about their own feelings about their friend Stone being accused of being a rapist.
She definitely believes he did something.
Of course she does, but he's our friend, and he said that it absolutely did not happen. No chance.
We all realize that this sucks.
Yeah, you know what sucks, Rollins? This is what sucks. A busload of nuns could say that Peter Stone was in Albuquerque at the time of this rape. And still, somewhere in the back of my mind, every time I see him, I'm gonna wonder, did he? That's what sucks.
This is the problematic part of this episode. Really. There is this problem that obviously has come to light a lot in the last couple of years, but it's something that, women, we've kind of been aware of forever, where when dudes do bad things, there's an entire dialogue around them of, but he's a good guy, but he's my friend. But how do we feel about the fact that he's my friend? But he's my friend. He wouldn't have done something like that. There's this weird line around my guy can't have ever done anything bad ever because my guy just wouldn't do that. And this show should fucking know better than to have that kind of dialogue. And the whole thing where Carisi, I think they try to couch it where he just says that dumb thing where he's like, even if a bus full of nuns say that he was in Guatemala when this happened.
It was Albuquerque.
Yeah, Albuquerque. I still would have to look at him every time and think, well, maybe he did it. Boo-hoo. Boo-fucking who.
Yeah, it sucks. And they're all like, man, that sucks.
That sucks.
For us.
I'm so sorry that our successful ex-baseball playing district attorney friend has been accused of a crime, but let's just stand around and talk about how awesome he is.
It's going to be so awkward at the water fountain. Lottie, aside from kind of what they're saying, it seems to me like these scenes are dropped in as saying, we need to have our public service announcement part of this episode now and very conspicuously talk about what's going on in the national dialogue.
I mean, it felt like they were, watching all of the things that have been happening, out there in the pop culture. And they were like, well, okay, what are we going to do this week? Well, let's do something about this. But the thing is that this is a very, very complicated topic. And we are very much telling this story from the point of view of the men.
Right.
You know, I mean, this is Peter's story about how he gets falsely accused, you know, and then we take away the part where she's lying for whatever reason. People want to convince themselves that women lie about this stuff all the time, which is nonsense, you know. So we take that out, but she's, you know, I mean, at the end, mistaken. And the big tragedy here is that here we have a good man whose reputation, you know, was threatened by this woman who at least wasn't, you know, viciously lying, but had made a mistake, right? So it's this whole thing where in the end, the big tragedy is, oh, wow, you know, this horrible thing happened to him where he like was almost accused of rape during one of his many, many, many blackouts, you know?
Yes.
And the real thing is that this woman, regardless of, you know, of like what actually, like was actually raped.
Right.
And that is not what we're focusing on at all. So once again, men are telling the story from a male perspective without having any kind of, you know, consideration for what this does to women. And we're using gendered language here. When I say men and women, I'm talking about how like the majority of these shake out gender-wise. But I mean, these things also happen. There are men who are victimized in the same way. So it's really about perpetrator and victim. But when the perpetrator is a man, that's when we have a problem with it.
Last season, we saw Carisi going in for a kiss on Rollins.
Yep.
Kind of, whoops, didn't happen. Now she's carrying the baby of Dr. Awkward Love. And Carisi has all these opinions about her uterus.
That's right.
No, Rollins, I'm just saying that you deserve to be happy. You deserve to be taken care of.
And Al takes care of me.
No, he doesn't. Look, there is a difference between flowers and fancy-ass dinners and being taken care of.
People can change.
I'll believe that when I see it.
Okay.
I'm gonna get you ginger ale, all right? That steak's gonna give you indigestion.
She shouldn't eat this. She should eat that. She should have a ginger ale. She shouldn't move in with this guy who broke her heart.
Come on, Lonnie, defend Carisi. He's
She
just
should
trying
be
to take care of her, right?
Getting married.
Oh my
She should be with someone who's going to
God.
take care of her.
Okay, I don't know anything about anything because I don't watch this show except when you guys make me. So I am going to say that from my perspective of having seen this for just like a few minutes, first of all, Dr. What's-It with the box that has a key in it. No, isn't this cute? Because you're going to think it's a ring, but it's actually a key. And she is completely like, I'm pregnant. I just want somebody to like take care of me. And he's like, somebody should take care of you. And then they have him getting the ginger ale for her because it shows that he's the one who's actually taking care of her instead of this like stupid doctor guy. And I think that Rollins just needs to go somewhere where there are no men because her taste in men is freaking awful. I mean, my God.
And where did he go for the ginger ale? He just walked out of the kitchen.
The soda machine was right there.
Yeah.
It was literally
No.
right there.
He had to get a special kind.
Yeah, Canada Dry isn't good enough for you, Amanda. I gotta go get Schweppes, which you can only get at the bodega 3 blocks away.
Yes.
All right, now let's take a look at the second half of this episode. Of all the gin joints in all the world, Peter Stone happens to be at the one where Sarah's husband, Gary, is also drinking in the middle of the day. But enough talking man to man. Let's take Stone hostage.
All right, everybody out. Everybody out.
Go. Get up, man.
Come on. Me and the guy who raped my wife, we're going to have a little heart-to-heart. Just a couple of guys with one thing in common, huh? So what is it with guys like you? Do you just see us, you take it?
I may be a dick, but I'm not a rapist.
So the SWAT team surrounds the bar and will likely screw this up, killing everyone inside. But thank God, Olivia Benson shows up to say, no, this hostage situation needs to be handled by the sex crimes unit.
That's right. I contoured. I'm ready for this,
I'm
guys.
ready for this. Gary gives himself up to be with his family until, of course, he's probably going to go to jail. But he doesn't. The detectives notice that Sarah's daughter, Emma, was born 8.5 months after the night in question.
No.
So Olivia goes back to ex-ball player Reggie and asks him to lie about the night to help Stone's case. When he agrees, "Damn, you fooled me!" she arrests him. According to the DNA, Emma's dad is Reggie. So Stone is off the hook, but he confides in Liv that even he was beginning to doubt his own innocence.
Huh. But did you ever figure out what a Japanese toilet is? Because that was the big mystery of this episode.
Okay, so who thought when Gary appeared next to Stone in a bar that things were going to turn out okay?
Well, Gary is clearly a psychopath. So, I mean, Sarah has got a lot of problems going on here. But the idea that he's just going to pull out a gun in the middle of this, because we've got all of these like mass shooting things that are happening also in the culture, which need addressing. And so we have this guy pulling out a gun in this, in this public space, which is a very triggering event, for us, like nationally. We are really, so the idea,
we put one more trauma on America in a single episode.
Right.
This is the most traumatizing episode of SVU, which says a lot.
So I have some problems with the scripting of this scene.
Yes.
So Stone realizes that that's Gary there, and the first thing he says is,
Gary, for what it's worth, I didn't know. I didn't know Sarah was married.
The second thing he says is,
I didn't do anything to your wife.
I didn't do anything to your wife.
Rape her.
I'm like, I think you buried the lead here, friend, because the first sentence kind of implies that something maybe did happen. And then Gary says...
Because it's like, that's obviously the thing you're most worried
right.
about.
I didn't know she
an
was
affair.
married, yes.
Yeah.
And then the third thing that happens is Gary says...
Least you can do is have a drink with me.
And Stone's like, all right.
Yeah. Against my better judgment and all my legal training, I'll stay and finish
Stone's
this drink.
never turned down a drink. What are you
Apparently
talking
not.
about?
Yeah.
I've watched one episode of this thing and I can tell that.
Yeah. I thought it was presumptuous for Gary to think that Stone would, in the middle of the day, in his very nice suit, just walk out and go to a bar, and that's where he would find him. But I guess not.
No.
Of course, apparently there's only one bar in Manhattan where you would find Stone, so we'll just go there.
There's also only one bar in Manhattan with a bartender that's actually vigilant and listens to the conversations that are happening at the bar.
Hey, fella.
At every other bar in Manhattan, you can be standing there for an hour just with your hand up waiting for a stupid beer. And this bartender is like, hey, calm down, calm down. He wasn't even talking that loud. He was just sort of quietly accusing Stone of rape.
Well, and I also like Stone's, I didn't know she was married, which is like this whole apology, not for raping this woman, not for getting blackout drunk, not for any of those things, but because she belonged to you. That's the problem. Because you peed on her and marked her as yours, and I didn't realize it. My bad, dude. Let me buy you a beer. God.
That must be the mea
Let's
culpa.
settle this like men.
Because there aren't any other
over
mea
these
culpas in this
microbrews.
episode.
Yeah. New York is a big place. Why is Gary's wife and daughter just around the corner from this hostage situation in the middle of a school day? They live in Bushwick.
Don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Also, okay, can we talk about Benson pulling in this woman and this child and putting the child on the phone with the man who she believes to be her father? Right? We don't know at this point. And making her talk to him in the middle of this, like, that kid is going to be traumatized for a good long time because of that. I think that there are certain ages at which you need to protect the children, and like not bring them onto a scene where a SWAT team at any moment could blow her father's brains out right in front of her. That whole thing was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous, as was whoever wrote the piece of dialogue for the daughter saying,
My daddy would never hurt anybody.
as he stands inside a bar holding a gun to somebody's head.
Yeah.
Exactly.
She knows in her bones, in her heart, and her soul that her father would never hurt
Hey,
anybody.
little lady, evidence to the contrary. Evidence to the contrary.
Yeah.
I will say the child's parentage is a pretty convenient plot device.
You think?
Because there's only one way to solve this he said, she said.
It sort of
and
reminds
it's with
me.
DNA.
It sort of reminds me how in like 98% of TV shows that deal with unwanted pregnancy, where they're like talking about abortion, there's almost always a miscarriage because like it's a convenient device to not have to actually grapple with the truth or with the actual complicated consequences of somebody actually doing a thing that millions of people do all the time. And like the parentage thing is like a way to say for sure it wasn't Stone, so that we as viewers then don't see him as maybe PJ or Squee down the line.
Yeah, right. Now, shouldn't this daughter have been named Deus Ex Machina?
Deus Ex Emily, right?
Yeah. God in the Machine said, you know what would be a really great twist? Boom, you also get pregnant.
That's
for
right.
Later.
That's right.
This will come in handy later.
It'll come in handy later when I'm trying to entrap you into...
Right.
Yeah. Right. So, this weird kind of not confrontation, this meeting with Olivia Benson
Attempted
and
entrapment
Reggie.
meeting, you mean?
You want me to commit perjury?
Come on, I know that you guys cover for each other, right? All those road trips with the wife and the girlfriend, don't know. I mean, all you would have to do is to say that you heard Sarah consent before you left the hotel room.
Well, yeah, she starts off by like, come on, let's lie. How about you lie? And when he does lie, she's like, And I'm thinking, that's entrapment. That's unconstitutional. Why would you even do it? For what purpose? Couldn't you just go in and say, I think the DNA is going to show that you're the father. Why do you got to go through this whole charade of like, come on, just lie for the guy?
Because she contoured, and we need to see it for a little bit longer. I have a legal question.
I'm a lawyer. Go ahead.
Okay, so Gary goes into a bar in the middle of a day with a gun, pulls it out, and waves it around. There's lots of people in the bar, including that very attentive bartender.
Yeah, okay.
The situation ends with him walking out. Turns out the gun wasn't loaded. And Stone doesn't want to press charges, so the whole thing is good, right?
Yeah.
But isn't that actually just a crime? Like, Stone doesn't have to press charges for that. Like, isn't it just a crime to walk in with a weapon and threaten a bunch of people?
The SWAT team had to be called. I think when SWAT comes out, pretty much the dude is going to jail, and there are going to be consequences, right?
Also, the newspapers where a reporter would say, well, why did this guy want to take this DA hostage?
Right. The arrest of a DA in a sexual assault somehow never makes the news? Somehow, like, no one finds out about that?
No. You mean the DA who was also once a Major League Baseball player?
Exactly. Prosecutes rape cases?
Yeah. That is a hell of a story.
It is.
I would love that story.
It is.
The Post would love
yeah.
it. What would the headline be?
I don't know. DA goes to bat.
Mr. Fat.
I don't know. DA strikes out.
Swing and a miss.
Oh, God.
Pop up.
Oh, God.
Not for nothing, but just because Reggie is the father, it doesn't automatically mean that Stone didn't rape Sarah.
That's true.
I mean, when you think about it.
That's really a good point. That's a good...
He was the last one with her.
But that's not the only giant plot hole in this episode.
Oh, no?
There's a huge one, which it's so strange to me because don't you remember at the beginning of the episode, Sarah says she went with her friend to go hang out with these baseball players. And then Austin says, I married the friend, right? Yeah. So at some point, or maybe this whole time, Sarah knows Austin. Like, she's friends with him. He ostensibly knows that she was there in that hotel room because he met his wife there. And she's worried about reporting this rape because that's how her husband will find out that she had a fun night out with some baseball players. She's not worried about her best friend mentioning, oh, hey, that time that me and Austin here met you in this hotel room with these baseball players.
Yeah. And
kind of a plot hole.
Then all Reggie has to say is, I don't remember either. And we're right back where we started.
Exactly. But I know in my bones.
I know in my bones.
That's right.
If I were Stone, I'd be really mad at Reggie because, first of all, Reggie apparently broke up his no-hitter with a fucking bunt.
Right.
Which is the cheapest way of breaking up a no-hitter. At least try to get a real hit. And then he rapes somebody and lets him take the fall for it.
Yep. He sucks as a friend.
Yeah.
Fucking Austin.
But he was willing to lie for him. So that says something, I guess.
Let's take a look at the real-life story that inspired this episode. It's time for Ripped from the Headlines.
You think you know who did it. You think you know who did it. But you don't know who did it. You don't know who did it. Ripped from the headlines.
What's the real-life case? It's Brett Kavanaugh, for Christ's sake. Could it be any clearer? What? Did you need PJ and Squee to make an appearance too? Jesus Christ, I thought the Michael Jackson ones were too obvious. Read a newspaper once in a while. It's Kavanaugh.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious.
That was good. Nice job, Cy. Nice job.
Oh, man, that is classic.
Was Cy like, how do I pronounce this name anyway?
Kavanaugh. Everybody knows Kavanaugh. All right, let's try to take away the confirmation politics out of this and Supreme Court and Democrat and Republican, because it's a bigger, meatier issue to talk about.
I think that
politics,
we can even
right?
agree that the confirmation stuff isn't actually about politics, but that's just me.
All right, yeah. Let's put this aside. And of course, when we talk about men and women and rape, Kevin always comes out looking bad. So,
right.
But let's have an honest conversation and just let me for a little bit be the devil's advocate and ask the questions.
Oh, good luck with that.
All right? Because we can't have the conversation then if we don't do that.
Okay.
This seems to be a time of much self-reflection for men who are worried that what they thought was adolescent learning process about heavy petting may have actually been a crime. Is there some legitimacy to that, or do men just have to get the fuck over themselves?
Men have to get the fuck over
All right.
themselves. Next question.
Okay.
Lonnie, you can have the next one.
Yes.
Yeah, if Rebecca takes them, my only answer is going to be, what she said.
Yeah, right, okay. But, okay, Stone's character, it's like a lot of people, there's this nexus between, I know in my bones I could never have done it, and then I wondered if I could. I think it's good that men are looking back through a new prism at what were my relationships like when I was younger. Was I disrespectful? What didn't I do? If it was also, you also sexually assaulted somebody, that's a whole other fucking story. But I think that can be a good thing for men to embrace and think about the way they've treated women in the past and how they want to treat women in the future. Am I good as Peter Stone? Or
are you drawing a silver lining here?
Am I trying? I guess maybe
plan?
I am. I'm sorry if I am. Yeah.
I think that this whole thing is really, really complex. And I'm going to say, again, using gendered language, women are not the only victims, but we do have, what we have here is kind of this Venn diagram overlap of like the patriarchy and misogyny, which contribute to all of these things. Now, the thing is, for a very long time, men have been socialized with this boys will be boys kind of, oh, isn't it cute? If he likes you, he's pulling your hair. Like, we're taught that from like the time that we're little, that men who like us will abuse us, right?
Yeah,
and we're supposed to, think it's cute, and we're supposed to, and women are supposed to not want it. We got this whole, of course, annual argument about whether baby it's cold outside is predatory or a woman, expressing her sexual freedom in the face of repression, whatever. You can read it both ways. That's a whole different discussion. But what I'm saying is the way that women are socialized to pretend like they don't want it, right? And men are socialized to be aggressive and to look at it as a conquest. And the fact that nobody was talking about consent until very, very recently. We have a problem with men and women both are responsible for their behavior. But when societally you're given one message your whole life and you behave on that, it is understandable to me how some people would be feeling like, I don't know where the lines are. And now we're having those discussions. And I think that that is really, really valuable. Where I have a problem is when people just knee-jerk say, no, I know in my bones I would never do that kind of thing. I used to black out all the time, but I guarantee I was just passed out. I didn't do anything to anybody. I would never. How can you ruin my reputation? And instead of saying, God, let me take a look at my behavior and I am so sorry. Like if somebody would acknowledge what happened from the perspective of the victim and say, I am so sorry that I did this. Had Brett Kavanaugh gone, I wouldn't have liked him no matter what, because dude is disgusting in a million other ways. But if he had come in and said, I don't remember this night, I don't remember this experience. If I did that to you, I'm so sorry. And I am so sorry that that was your experience. I would never want you to have that. I wouldn't want my daughters to have that experience. Because of course it's always about, I have daughters, I have a wife, right? So obviously I would never do
You can't
this.
just be a decent person.
You have to have a
daughter.
daughter.
You have to show that, because
but
I have a
taking
daughter and a wife
responsibility
now.
for it, like you're culturalized in a certain way to behave a certain way, and I understand that. It doesn't make you not responsible for it, but it means that like now you can look back on that behavior and say, God, I really got that wrong. I'm so sorry. And that is what we need people to do just to even start this conversation. But instead, we get this knee-jerk, I would never do that while I was pounding beers with PJ and Squee and whatever.
It ends up being a barrier to a better discussion, right?
It's always about the man. It's always about the man.
That's
and again, victims can be anything, but because this is about that Venn diagram of patriarchy and misogyny, that's where we end up. Right. So even in this episode where they're trying to talk about this stuff, it's still from the perspective of the frickin' man. And at the end, we find out that Peter Stone never did it, that he was absolutely right in his bones.
Right.
And that the big problem at the end of this episode is that here this woman who couldn't remember what happened to her and, ended up almost ruining this man's life because she couldn't remember properly which guy had raped her, that the real problem is Peter Stone's, almost having to go to jail and almost having his life ruined by this silly woman who didn't know who had raped her. So we're still going back to a lot of those really patriarchal narratives about this woman who is either lying or just does not know what happened to her.
Right.
She knows her experience. She knows what happened. In the end, we have this whole thing that is she's ruining this guy's life. She doesn't even know what happened. And then we have another, story going on, the case that Peter is prosecuting, where this woman also was drunk, also doesn't remember what happened to her, also is looking unreliable, where we paint these women as just like, they have no idea what happened to their lady parts, but I know I didn't like it. Like, it just, we're not representing women well, we're not representing men well, and they are definitely not addressing this issue well.
So one of the things that we have been talking about in the culture is getting an understanding that women often don't report because they won't be believed.
Right.
They think they will not be believed. And so that is like part of our understanding now. But is this just a moment and we're not going to sort of remember that truth? It's just going to, again, be, well, she doesn't remember what day it was. And,
This is the core problem I have with this episode. Because I do think they tried to do the we believe thing. They tried. I mean, at least they give it a half-assed try, where Olivia said, it might not have been you, but something happened to her. We believe that she was raped. And they also, with the victim on the stand, said the same thing. The core problem with this episode is that the judge in that trial case and the prosecutor in that trial case, which was Stone, it was easy to believe the woman because the guy was outwardly a prick. Like, he was outwardly like a prick.
Right.
He was belligerent. He was like yelling at the judge. The judge didn't like him, so she sent him to remand. He had to go to jail and stuff. And Peter is outwardly, we're supposed to believe anyway, even though we've seen him in his private life and he's kind of a prick, but outwardly we're supposed to believe he's friends with all these people, so he's a good guy.
There's a good guy and a bad guy.
Right,
Yeah,
and he's a good guy. And the good guy, everyone just knows, and he knows, would never, could never, had never. That, to me, is the giant flaw in this episode, because the whole good guy narrative is why women don't report. Because if there's somebody who is perceived to be a good guy, other people like him, my friends are friends with him. Even, I'm not talking about like famous people, judges, people for confirmation. I'm talking about like high school students. If like a popular boy raped a girl. We've seen this in many other Law & Order episodes.
Well, that's the thing.
The
for
girl
SVU,
won't report because she doesn't want to be unpopular.
Right, we're at season 20, and a lot of these, we've seen these particular themes and a lot of these narrative devices in other episodes. This one just seems so much more resonant than, a season 8 episode where Stabler and Benson are talking about, well, who do you believe?
What do you mean resonant? You mean like it was just immediately
it just
whiplash reflecting what was in the news 2 weeks before?
And okay, there's that. But it just, I don't know, it feels different to have that discussion and to see that play out. It seems more real, which sometimes, SVU, always about serious things, whether it's a murder, whether it's being a victim of sexual assault. That's all very serious stuff that we use for entertainment. This time it just didn't feel like entertainment.
It felt I think it's because it was disappointing.
Yes.
How does someone get the nickname Squee?
Well, it probably has to do with a lot of drinking in high school, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
All right. Well, that will do it for us. Want to thank our very special guest, three-time champion.
Very special guest.
Lonnie
The most
Diane
special.
Rich. Lonnie, where can our listeners follow you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Lonnie Diane Rich, and you can also find my website, Chipperish Media, chipperish.com.
And Rebecca Lavoie, how can our listeners follow you?
They can follow Lonnie Diane Rich, and they will ultimately find me because I retweet, comment on, and stand up for her at every opportunity.
Yes, you do.
At
baby.
Reb Lavoie, because she is my girl.
And you can track me on Twitter at Kevin P. Flynn. You can also tweet to us at Law & Order Pod or follow us on Instagram at These Are Their Stories Podcast. Our newsreader was the great Cy Frater. Our theme music was composed and performed by Uncanny Valleys. Line editing by Henry Lavoie. Content assistance from Travis Roy. Lily Flynn handles promotions. To get ad-free episodes of These Are Their Stories a week early, sign up for Stitcher Premium. Get your first month free at stitcherpremium.com/crime. All clips in this podcast were used in compliance with the U.S. Copyrights Fair Act use exemption for criticism and commentary. If you want to know what episodes we're talking about in our upcoming shows, go to lawandorderpodcast.com. Sign up for our newsletter for a chance to be our next Law & Order Marathon winner. These Are Their Stories was recorded in the Yoga Loft above the Bodega in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio and is a production of Partners in Crime Media.
Partners in Crime Media.